Hi, my name is Amy Bach. I'm the executive director of the nonprofit organization United Policyholders that is bringing you this webinar. I am so proud and pleased to be joined by a panel of outstanding experts, and we are going to be going through strategies and points for you to use in resolving your Hurricane Ian claim dispute. You can download the slide deck by going to our website, going to events, finding this page, and then on the right, you will find this slide deck. So a little bit about us. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that has been in business since 1991. We've been serving Florida residents and coordinating with Florida partners since Hurricane Andrew. We don't accept funding from insurance companies so that we can keep an independent voice and give you information that you know is reliable and accurate. We run 3 programs. Our services are free. We're funded by donations and grants and a lot of volunteer and pro bono labor. You can't hire us. Our services are free, but they are limited. Our partners include departments of insurance, members of organizations like VOAD, which is a national network of nonprofits that assist in disasters. We work with people from the insurance side, the legal arena, construction, personal finance professionals. And our focus through the Roadmap to Recovery program is post-disaster guidance and services focused on financial, insurance, real estate, construction decision-making, and emotional recovery. But we are a consumer advocacy group at our heart. So our goal here is to help you break through any log jams and or frustrations and figure out where more help might be available to you. And we'll be talking about where things stand at the 1 year. We set up a library for you a year ago, shortly after the hurricane hit, and we've been doing our best to keep it up to date. What you'll find on our website, in addition to a lot of information, are sample letters to help you be an effective communicator with your insurance company and or anyone else that you are needing help from. We've got samples of construction estimates, home inventories, code upgrade breakouts, proof of loss forms, that sort of thing. So lots of things to help you sleep at night, literally probably put you to sleep, but also put your mind at ease. That's me. I'm a lifelong insurance consumer advocate. I'm dedicated to helping consumers of insurance get a fair shake and keeping the system moving and delivering on the promises that insurers make when they cash your premium checks. I'm proud to be joined here by Val Brown, my deputy, who has many, many years of experience in disaster recovery and is very well respected nationally among all the big groups, Red Cross, faith-based groups, FEMA. She really does know a lot about effective disaster recovery. And we have an amazing panel today. We have Jean June, who is a bureau chief of assurance assistance at the Florida Department of Financial Services. You in Florida have sort of unusual, you have 2 agencies that oversee the insurance industry in Florida. You have his agency, DFS, and then the Office of Insurance Regulation, OIR, and they both work together to oversee insurance company rates, forms, and claim practices. We're also joined by Jason Manton, who's a Florida policyholder attorney with HARE, Shannara Trial Attorneys. This is in alphabetical order. Here we have Rick Tutwiler, who is a Florida public adjuster and was born into the profession. His father before him was also a public adjuster. He's been a PA since 2005, and he is the president and CEO of Tutwiler Associates. And last but definitely not least, we have Matt Weaver, who is a Florida policyholder attorney with the international law firm of Reed Smith. And Matt's partner, John Ellison, has been one of UP's longest and most generous volunteers, helping us with all kinds of projects that we do across the country filing briefs in courts, trying to get courts to rule in favor of coverage, in favor of policyholders. So I just want to say a really hearty thank you to this panel for agreeing to give us some of their valuable time. And I will add about Jason that he, former to being a plaintiff's attorney, was in-house with an insurance company. So he has some intel on how insurance companies make decisions. So a few reminders before we move forward. An insurance policy is a legal contract and it's written by insurance company lawyers, but there are laws on how it gets interpreted. And so, even though it's black and white, it also has baked in some ideas that the courts will impose that relate to fairness, that relate to how the insurance company is supposed to treat you. Also good to remember that adjusters are human and they have different levels of expertise and ethics. Very important. I'm sure you've all figured this out by now at past the 1 year. An insurance claim is a business negotiation. It's not like what you see on TV with the magic wand and your house magically getting fixed. And then the final reminder is that you did pay for two things when you bought your insurance. You paid for coverage and good claim service. And you shouldn't have had to pay for expert reports, claims, and legal help. But the reality is when many people do need help getting a full and fair settlement. So there are resources, and we've got some of them here with us today to help you if you have tried on your own or you've gotten some help and you need more help. Just a little bit of an overview of where things stand with Ian claims. This is not a pretty picture to me as a consumer advocate, nor should it be a pretty picture to any American, because it shows that many out of the claims that were filed, homeowner claims, 437,000 claims that got filed for Ian, only 133,000 of them were closed without any payment. So that means that 133,000 Ian victims have not collected any insurance dollars to repair or rebuild, and that is not a good thing. And so part of what we're here today for is to help people who haven't seen any money or had their claim closed from the get-go, had the door shut on them from the get-go, and maybe still holding out hope that they could collect some funds. So what are some of the Ian claim issues that we'll be talking about? Coverage denials. A lot of people had their claims denied on the basis that it was flood and that flood's excluded, or that the insurance company said that the damage fell below the deductible, so they didn't owe money, or other reasons. Very common that we see big gaps between what an insurer offers on a dwelling and a contents claim versus real life values. And we see insurers depreciating people's property excessively. We also see problems with adjuster communications. People say, we've heard from a lot of consumers who say, I haven't heard from an adjuster in months. I don't know what's going on. Or I was working with one adjuster, then another one came and the other one left, and then things seem to be different. Or I just can't reach anybody. Or the adjuster, the insurer has assigned most recently is adversarial, is treating me like a criminal or just giving me a hard time. We'll be talking about the fact that there's been changes in the law in Florida that have made it harder for people to get their roofs fixed properly. And then we hear complaints about the managed repair companies. A lot of people, home insurance has become so expensive in Florida that a lot of people took a deal and said, okay, in return for a discount, let's say with People's Trust, a 5% discount, I'll agree to manage repair, not really understanding what that meant. That means that you cannot pick who does the work. And so we hear some complaints there about that. And then, of course, we've been hearing from people whose homes were damaged, not destroyed, exposed to the elements, got wet, had mold issues that were not properly addressed or paid for by the insurers. And just so that you know, a UP, because we're a consumer group, people don't get in touch with us to tell us how well things are going. People get in touch with us to tell us what problems they're having. And so we know, and we certainly hope that some claims have gone okay, and people have collected. But we're here to talk about the ones where there's problems. So a few of the Florida specific complications. Hurricane and wind deductibles, very complicated now in Florida. A lot of people now have multiple deductibles, and some of them are percentages, and math always causes problems. ACV only coverage on specific items, meaning that the insurer doesn't really pay the full cost of repairing and replacing. They depreciate it. Actual cash value, meaning the used price, reduced for wear and tear. Roof charts and limits, we'll talk about that. Insolvent insurers, there's some of you may have had your insurance company go belly up, run out of money, and now your claim may be processed by something called FIGA, the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association. And then there were the governor's tort reforms that took away consumer rights and legal remedies. And while they haven't fully kicked in, and a lot of people after Ian were able to hire lawyers on contingency in the normal way, we are hearing a lot of reports that it emboldened some insurers. The fact that those tort reforms went into place made a lot of insurers think, you know what, we're just going to do things the way we want to do them. And that it may, that a lot of people say that they feel in the claim process that insurers are being playing more hardball than they did before. They had this sort of the laws now, the way it's become much harder. It will become harder in the future to find a lawyer that can afford to work on contingency, and to make it viable for you not to take an undue risk of embarking on a lawsuit that could be very expensive. Just a few more reminders. Strong documentation of your damage is so key, and keeping a journal is very, very key to getting a good outcome. And then we do have professional help resources in Florida. These are firms that support us. There are some of them in our directory, and that's a place to look if you decide you need help. The order we recommend: self-help and tenacious policyholder. Start with the free help. That will be Jean June's agency, DFS, and your elected representatives. But for the majority of the people that have a problem with their insurance, if they can't do it on their own, then you do need to hire professional help. And there's some excellent opportunities to hire. But as with everything, and particularly in this context, so important to hire somebody who really is a specialist in representing policyholders in insurance disputes, in property, because this is a very specialized area with a lot of lingo, a lot of formulas, a lot of legalities and math. It's really important to have somebody representing you who is grounded and very expert. And checking references, of course, is incredibly important. So we've got guidance on our website that you can refer to. These are just a few things. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these other than to go through them quickly and let you know that you'll find this information on our website. Your insurer there are deadlines when they're supposed to be processing your claim and responding to you, and it's supposed to be a week. Your insurer should have completed the investigation of your claim long ago. Jean, if you don't mind me throwing a question at you that we didn't script, and if I put you on the spot, I apologize. People are going to look at this and say, 60 days, it's 370 days or 80 days now. So how is it that there can be this law and people can still be mired in not really feeling clear about where they stand?
Again, I think it's important to remember that the 60 days refers to the undisputed portion of the claim. There's no time frame on the company completing their investigation. So long as it's not unfairly delaying the handling of the claim. As
Okay.
long as they can demonstrate there is information they still need that they haven't gotten to complete the investigation, they can continue on the investigation. But whenever there's a portion of the claim where there's an amount that's no longer in dispute, that amount has to be paid within that 60 days.
Okay. So your interpretation is it's the undisputed portion.
It's the undisputed amount,
Okay.
yes.
We'll be talking with our lawyers here about what that means, and then of that you're, but there are laws in Florida that your insurer is supposed to be fair and thorough and timely, pay or deny. And I'm assuming again, Jean, you'd say the same thing. Let me throw this to Matt, and then Jason. Do you take issue at all with what Jean said, or is it your interpretation that the 60 days is to pay the undisputed?
So I'm not sure I take issue with what Jean said. I think it's a fair interpretation. I think in the right situation, there may be room for a different interpretation. I would also say that these statutes, in my view, don't generally exempt or remove from the insurance companies the obligation to do things quickly. There's industry standards that are in place for all insurance companies, and it's not unique to Florida. You have to investigate claims at your own expense. You have to be prompt and thorough in your investigation, et cetera. In my view, those standards still apply, irrespective of these statutes.
Okay.
And Jason, I'd be interested in anything you had to say on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt and Jean on that. I know that the topic is kind of getting towards bad faith, and the carrier basically will go out and, you know, there should be a time frame for them to complete their investigation. They can't use that as a way to just drag it along. For instance, you'll have adjusters come out and knock it on the roof knowing there was roof damage. So they'll issue the undisputed, and now you have we'll have a client, let's say, that now has to wait because, well, the adjuster decided on that day they didn't want to go to the roof, or they didn't bring a ladder. That's not really the spirit of the law, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. And then, okay. So we want to get back to where are we here at the 1-year anniversary? Rick, are the insurance dollars flowing to your clients as they should be?
In most cases, yes. The amounts are not enough. We'd like to see the claims get through the finish line, get people through the claim process so they can move on and get into the repair process, and ultimately, restore their properties so that the market is headed towards stability again. So we have been really, really working hard towards that. And yeah, I would say there are a lot of people that still are very much struggling in the claim process. And it's, you can't help everybody. So hopefully this educational piece will get out there and really bring some help for people.
Thank you. Jean, what outcomes? So Jean's agency processes complaints from consumers. So Jean, can you tell us what outcomes on consumer complaints from Ian is your agency helping achieve?
Well, I can tell you last week we had an insurance village down in Fort Myers, and in 3 days, we got $7.5 million of claims paid out. There were a lot of public adjusters like Richard that attended that village and came with the necessary documentation needed to check all the boxes and get those claims paid out. But in addition to the payouts, when a lot of times consumers are complaining, this can be a very frustrating time in their life. I mean, you can only imagine. And a lot of times the education helps. It helps them get to the right people, take the right steps, have the right understanding, clear out the communication, get them in contact with the companies, and get things moving along. So we've had a lot of success there. I know there's still a lot more people out there to help, and we're still continuing to have our helpline open. We'll still continue to do villages when necessary to continue to make sure consumers are getting the help that they need.
Yeah. Are you planning to have another village? I know you've had quite a few.
We've had quite a few. Of course, that's not my call to make. That comes to me down the pipeline. But our own CFO said when speaking to media that we'll continue to have as many as needed to help our consumers.
Thank you. So Matt, is it too late for an Ian victim or Ian survivor to sue an insurance company?
It's not. And, you know, Amy, you mentioned the tort reform, which got a lot of press toward the end of last year. There's actually a silver lining there. If you've got an Ian claim, courts have found, including very recently, that those reforms, particularly the ones that eliminate the right to attorney's fees and some of the changes to Florida's bad faith statute, those reforms don't apply retroactively. And what does that mean? That means that if you have an Ian claim, there's still the ability to hire a lawyer on your behalf and have that lawyer ultimately be paid by the insurance company if you prevail in that lawsuit. That for decades was a really valuable right for consumers in the state to have, and you know, the legislature has taken it away, but that didn't happen until after Ian. So if you had a policy in effect at the time, you should still have that right.
Okay. So Jason, a third, as we talked about, of Ian claims have been denied, presumably due to the flood exclusion. The NFIP has their own rules. Is it too late for a homeowner to fight back against if they had an NFIP claim and that claim was denied?
Oh, if they already filed the claim, I mean, as far as I know, and Matt, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, they have 365 days from Ian, if it was a FEMA back claim, to submit the proof of loss. Matt, is that what you understand on that?
Yeah, and I haven't looked at this, Jason, I'll be honest, recently, but the rules for suing a flood insurer, if it's written under the NFIP, are different than for suing, for example, a residential property insurer that issues homeowners or windstorm coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I can confirm, I know the proof of loss was extended for 365 days, right. But the suit date, we're not sure about. So, okay. So that's some homework for all of us. So roof claims, we have heard quite a bit about them. So Rick, tell us what does this visual tell us?
You know, for your average homeowner out there, and again, we've seen a number of claims from, you know, commercial to hotel to residential, but for your average homeowner out there, there's been some changes over the years, and especially with regard to, you know, the 25% rule.
Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, historically, if 25% of the roof structure was damaged, then, you know, the insurance company would owe for the entire replacement of that roof, you know, to bring it back up to and to bring it to code. And now it has been reformed a couple of different times, but essentially, if it's what was it here, March, it was in 4D, I think it was. So a lot of what happened after Ian is that people were under the impression that they were going to get full roof replacements. And when they got their estimates from their insurance companies, they were, you know, really shocked because it was a repair allowance, oftentimes for a very, very nominal amount, $2,000, $5,000, replace a couple of tiles here, swap out a couple of tiles there. I've seen a number of different denials, carriers saying that there's been prior claims when there weren't, or they have listed a tile that is on this list that they say that they, you know, homeowners can go and find and basically repair that roof. And when you go and look at this list and you find that tile that they put in the letter is on here, then that tells you that you can't go out there and find that tile. And so what do you do? And what issues of avoiding warranties does that bring up? And So there are a whole host of issues at play still with people who are trying to get fair recoveries with their roof claims, and issues where, every time it rains they're having water, and now, homes are having mold inside of them. That's really what they need to kind of look at there to kind of cross-reference these letters, and just a lot of price disputes as well. People who have actually gone out and made the repairs, and the insurance companies have, their estimate, and they're just, far off in terms of price and sometimes scope too. And that's where we're seeing a lot of appraisal come into play right now.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a bit. How can a homeowner make their best case to an insurer for fair payment for their roof repair, Rick?
Well, I can tell you this. There probably are a lot of people who are listening that, if this applies to them, have gotten to notice that their insurance companies have sent out engineers, but their insurance companies won't release the engineering report. And they'll say it's work product or what have you, but in the denial letter they'll say it's a wind-driven rain issue, or pre-existing damage. It's there's probably a long list, but it really is hard for these people to understand what their insurance company's position is if they can't get a copy of that report. And it's essentially kind of forcing them to go out and hire an engineer on their own, and kind of an added burden when they're already facing a dire situation. So it's a very complicated issue that we're dealing with right now, still with a lot of people, just the average homeowner. So if their claim has been denied outright, I would say for those people, probably, that might be an opportunity to talk to a lawyer. But if it's an issue where it's just kind of a scope and price, depending on whether the carrier wants to resolve that in appraisal or mediation or something, it's still very much in play right now.
Okay, so Jean, I know you told me that earlier that you haven't gotten an increased number of complaints. We know as a consumer organization that a lot of people don't even know how to file a complaint. So we've been hearing quite a bit about roof problems. Jason, this document that we've got here is just a classic kind of insurance company legalese, confusing to the average person. But the bottom line is, it says you don't get your roof, we're not going to pay for the full replacement of your roof. So can you talk to us about what your clients have been reporting to you, and what issues around roof damage from Hurricane Ian you're already litigating for your clients?
Yeah, but prior to litigation, and Matt, I'm not certain if you've had your clients tell you this. I'm sure, Rick, you probably have also, that the field adjuster will come out and tell my clients, oh, you're going to get a whole new roof. And then shortly after that, that's not what's in their report, and that's not what the carrier is paying out. So frankly, I'll have clients that are mad at me that'll say, oh, well, the field adjuster said this. Well, I'll ask them in a deposition, but let's be honest, that's probably not going to be the truth coming out of their mouth, honestly, but yeah, I don't know if Matt or Rick, your clients have told you the same thing, that the field adjuster came out and told them, yeah, you're going to get a whole new roof here.
Yeah, Rick, I'll take it to you on that one.
At the very onset, there was a lot of drone imagery taken because of access issues, and so people were getting reports that their roof wasn't damaged because, say they had a metal roof, for example, and from the satellite the roof looked intact, but when you're out there in the field and you look at it laterally, and you're up on the roof, that it's lifted up and the panels have breached. In most of those cases, we've gotten those resolved. We're out there meeting with the adjuster. We're getting those, clear-cut cases resolved, and that's a good thing. Mostly this is in regards to the the tiled roofs, and there may have been cases where those roofs have been damaged in a prior storm. I can tell you that we have looked at a few properties where they had, roof schedules, and we just didn't see the damage there. So, it was you have to make these determinations, but they're really on a case-by-case basis. I can tell you we have gotten a number of them resolved, tile roofs for homeowners. It has taken a lot of documentation and just, really coming to the table and both sides kind of agreeing and let's move forward. But, there's still a lot of them out there that are dealing with it.
Yeah, I think that the carrier doesn't have a fair understanding, in my opinion, of how much a tile roof costs. And I don't know if that's what you guys see, but I get a lot of pushback on, a price per square. Wouldn't matter if it was an invoice from a roofing company or a PA estimate. They I always get pushback on that.
So can we talk about engineer? Like I heard Rick mention engineer. We know that the professionals who get involved in claims frequently sort of have their own stable of experts that they trust. Insurers have their own engineer, structural engineers. Let's start with you, Rick. Do you bring in an engineer on every one of your claims to give an opinion of whether the roof was damaged from the event?
Historically, no, unless it was absolutely needed, where was a major structural issues or life safety issues. But no, that's not the immediate mindset. Unfortunately, nowadays it almost has to be, because if the carrier has an engineer and they've it becomes this battle of the experts, then it's almost unfair not to have an engineer, because it's almost you're set up for failure, and the policyholder is not going to win a fair chance at that fight. And but no, it's not the initial mindset. And the whole withholding of these reports as work product, it doesn't make sense to me. If there's something in that report that would change my mind to agree with the insurance company, that in all likelihood could happen.
Yeah.
But just really feel like that's an unfair advantage for your average person out there that's still dealing with these issues.
Right. What, Matt, do you find that when you have a client who's going up against an insurer on a Ian claim, that it's hard to get the insurer to share their reports and their inspections, so you can see what you're up against?
No doubt. And as Rick alluded to, that's not how it should be. You're paying as the consumer for the service of claim adjustment, and part of that includes having access to what the carrier thinks about your claim.
Mm-hmm.
As a pure legal matter, a engineer's report on your claim issued before the claim is actually denied is not work product, as the law would recognize it.
Right. Just like an attorney who's acting as a claim adjuster cannot claim a privilege, right? If they're acting just because they're a lawyer, if they're actually working on adjusting the claim, they can't assert attorney work product privilege, right? So we are hearing a lot out here in California about the very adversarial claim environment. Gene, in terms of what you're seeing with the consumers that come to you, are you seeing more expert, where there's like a battle where the insurer has brought either has a third party, has an engineer or a consultant, or that there's sort of more hands in the pot?
Is this related to the question, or is this us? Is this off script?
I'm sorry, I winged you one. I'm sorry.
I'm getting all the off script questions today.
Yeah.
No, we're getting all kinds of complaints, left or right, when it comes to the adjusters or the multiple parties that are coming. There's often complaints of confusion, kind of alluding to what Jason said earlier. Get an insurer that says, well, my field adjuster said I'm getting me a new roof.
Right.
Not understanding that field adjuster could be this out-of-state emergency adjuster, who is not a staff of the insurer, just came in to, help, and they go out there, they say something, not understanding that whatever they say has to come back to a desk adjuster, who then has to process all that, and sometimes when you get something back that doesn't say correspond with the field adjuster says, well, that's causing confusion, because all the insured knows is, well, this person is representing the insurance company. So we get those complaints that come to us, and we have to go to the insurer and say, can you please explain? Can you give to us a timeline? Can you please provide to us what you have in terms of the adjuster's estimate? Why is what you have different from what the consumer is saying? The company has to respond to us. The company has to explain to us in detail those questions. And oftentimes, you get a lot of oops, and change of course from the company. So like you mentioned earlier, a consumer coming to us first can take advantage of getting some of that response before they take other options, which is completely open to them. But that's kind of where we are, where we stand in how we've helped to clarify some of the confusion that's happening out there when in the midst of chaos, you have a bunch of folks, like you said, put their hands.
Saying, yeah. I mean, there has been a trend in the insurance industry in general to lay off their staff adjusters and outsource claim adjusting to third-party companies and independent adjusters that are that are not on their team, and that has been causing, I think, extra problems for consumers. Jean, if a consumer is not getting a response from the insurance company's adjuster, what's their remedy?
I would say first contact us, because the company has to respond to us. Whoever they put out there, whether it's a staff adjuster or it's an independent adjuster or some of an adjusting firm, they're still responsible for it. They're not off the hook by saying, oh, it's not our adjuster, it was a adjusting firm. They're responsible because they contracted that adjuster to go out and they can still get a complaint against them. We can still send that to OIR to open an investigation on that insurance company. So I would say come to us first. The adjuster themselves are also licensed by us. They can't come out here in any capacity, whether it's a desk adjuster or a field adjuster, without having a license. So that adjuster also has to respond to us if we find them at fault as well. And we want to remove bad actors, not only in the insurance company side, but also on the adjuster side. So since our department licenses and regulates both, I recommend first coming to us.
Okay. Rick, this was a question that came in from one of our people who registered for this event. If a consumer has a public adjuster, are they barred from communicating directly with their insurance company?
I can tell you this, it's not my practice to say that a customer or policyholder cannot contact their insurance company. By all means, that's their insurance company. If they want to contact them, say something, they are more than free to do that. Kind of to segue on what Jean said, it is unfortunate that a lot of people are having communication issues when they paid their premium, and they expect that the adjuster who's coming out there on behalf of the insurance company should be trained and not have to wonder or worry, that adjuster may not have experience or have just gone through a 3-day crash course, or even go to the DFS for that matter. It is very frustrating for people, because the whole managing of expectations is very, very huge. If you can just set the stage for people, give them the honest truth, it's going to take a little bit, at least just tell them so that their expectations are in line. That goes a long, long way. And yeah, it is very frustrating. But I can tell you this, if there are public adjusters out there who are not communicating with their clients, it can be, and I'm sure there are, and I'm guilty of that sometimes. It's not because we're ignoring you. It's because we're busy during the day. We're working the claim. We're contacting the adjuster. We're sometimes having to work with a new adjuster over and over again. And so by the time the day is over, that person wants an update, and we've got to go reiterate, the whole spiel to them. And, we have to come home and eat and have families too. So it's a very, very fine and delicate balance, but a lot of it is just communication, and establishing that line of communication has been a very difficult process, and especially too with the claim portals at the beginning. And a lot of the elderly people may experience issues with those too. Those are complicated stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk for a minute about if your home was insured with one of the companies that went insolvent, belly up, ran out of money. Jason, if a homeowner's insurer went insolvent, does the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association automatically take over processing and paying that claim, or does the homeowner need to be proactive to get paid?
Yeah, so if they already had an open claim, I'll use UPC as an example during Ian. It was supposed to be transferred over to FIGA. That didn't happen with a lot of these cases. I mean, I have clients that UPC closed their claim. I had to go and open up the claim with FIGA. I would say to be proactive. There's a deadline. I'm not sure, you don't have it on the screen. It's going to be February for UPC claims. It's February 27, 2024. They have to have their claim in, or else they will be barred. Yeah.
We'll send out an alert about that. Is that FIGA claim? So you actually are representing some clients on their FIGA claims. So is it kind of like, is it similar to doing, you just have to put in your documentation and be
well, so FIGA to me, and I'll defer to Gene and everyone else on the panel, they were supposed to adjust the claim, and months went by, and I have angry clients saying to me, look, we had a claim open with UPC, nothing was done. Recently, they've been sending out re-inspections where they've gone out and re-inspected. But that was, most of those are me being persistent and following up with the adjuster or another adjuster taking over the claim and me following up with that one. But if not, you have clients that just don't know how to get in touch with anybody over at FIGA and they never respond to them. And they're just sitting, the claims are just sitting, stale basically.
Right.
Yeah, I would reiterate that. I mean, it's unfortunate because FIGA is overwhelmed. And they're trying to do the right thing, but there's only so much they can do. I mean, my advice to people, if you've got a carrier who's in that process, make sure that you're on top of the deadlines that FIGA's established, because they're different for each carrier.
Okay.
Right. And get the proof of claim form in, because if you don't get that in, they'll deny your claim essentially. So you want to just make sure that you're in compliance with them, so you can recover something at the very least, hopefully.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna jump in here real quick.
Yeah, please.
FIGA is under, I mean, I can't even imagine how many insurance companies have gone insolvent in the state of Florida, over 20, right? So an incredible burden that has been shifted towards FIGA. And in my experience, I just settled a claim that had a data loss in December of 2019 and just delivered these homeowners their check last week. It's a long time. And now they're, just moving forward to getting the repairs done so that they can, get a regular homeowner's policy, because they've got the bank force placed on them. So yes, it is. It's still a very similar process. It is a lot of follow-up, but hats off to FIGA for doing what they're doing, because, in the claims that I've had with them, they have gotten resolved. And, that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. We're looking for little rays of optimism here. And for NFIP claims, the proof of loss deadline did just pass. But you can if you forgot to put something in, and an engineering report, an invoice, a bid, photos, you can always try. So for trying to resolve insurance claim disputes, there's a process called appraisal. This diagram just kind of explains what it is. It's supposed to be a faster, cheaper, less formal way of resolving a dispute over how much an insurance company owes on a claim. but it's become it can be challenging for just a regular old person to use the process. So generally, most people who go through appraisal they do it with help from a lawyer or a public adjuster. So Rick, and then Jason, and certainly if Jean or Matthew has anything to add, please do. Rick, is appraisal a viable option for a consumer who's mired in a claim dispute from Ian?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. How about the approximate time and costs? Can Jason, do you want to speak to that?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Rick on this. As the top for time, I mean, a lot of times most of the time it's going to be quicker than going all the way to trial. Honestly, cost. Sometimes it can cost more, but it is a viable option. I agree with Rick on that.
Yeah. And okay. And so, we'll talk a little later about the mediation program, but this is an option. But Matthew or Matt, sorry, Matt, do you have an opinion one way or the other if you have a choice, as an attorney to take a client to an appraisal versus just going to court? Do you have a preference?
I agree with what Rick and Jason said. It is a speedier process. It should be a cheaper process. I say should. Sometimes it's not. That's largely dependent on the claim itself and on the appraisers that get selected. In my opinion, a residential homeowner's appraisal should be a very, very informal thing. If you have two good appraisers who know each other and are experienced, they can get those claims resolved in appraisal fairly quickly.
Okay. And I know, because UP, we have a project related to appraisal reform, trying to make it even more cost effective, more viable. The better the policyholder side seems to get at running appraisals, the less insurers often want to do it. And we hear a lot about insurers saying, well, we're not going to appraise the scope, meaning I'm sorry, we're not going to appraise coverage issues, right? So there'll be this, to me as a consumer advocate, I'm like, well, if you're going to use appraisal, then the idea is there's a disagreement over how much a repair should cost, right? Should it cost X or should it cost Y? So the idea of appraisal is you get an answer and you're done with the cost, right? When an insurer says, well, we don't want to appraise coverage, that often means they're saying, well, we think that some of the damage is from an uncovered peril, flood, for example. So do you run into situations where you can't get an appraisal off the ground because the insurer is trying to overly complicate it by saying, well, we're not going to figure out all the costs here because some of it.
Yeah. I mean, that can happen, but I'll say this about Florida. Florida actually has very policyholder-friendly law on this issue. There's two Florida Supreme Court cases that are about 20 plus years old now that set forth the scope of appraisal. And essentially, as long as there's some covered damage, even if there's the presence of potentially excluded damage, then the whole loss should be appraisable. Yeah. And you'll see that will mean that things like causation can be settled in appraisal. Obviously, as you mentioned, Amy, the amount of the loss itself, but oftentimes that question turns on causation or scope of coverage. So Florida law is actually pretty good on that. And I think that's different from a lot of states, frankly.
And I'd like to add something that Rick said. I agree with him. If both appraisers have a good relationship, I mean, one of the issues becomes the umpire. But if both the appraisers have a good relationship, it makes the process a lot smoother. I've found.
Okay. Yeah. Is it too late to hire professional help now? I think Matt, you just definitively said no. If you're stuck, so we kind of we make a distinction here. If they've denied your claim, it's probably a coverage issue. So you chances are you're going to want to talk to a lawyer, we've already heard it's not too late to do that. If you're stuck in claim limbo, it's likely a claim handling issue, either intentional or negligent slow paying, inaccurate or biased expert reports, lowballing, that sort of thing, or disagreements. Similarly, Rick, is it too late to hire a public adjuster at this point? I'm guessing if people have been paid whatever the insurer thinks they owe, it's probably harder for you as a PA to be able to take a case on like that, where you're not sure there's more policy benefits that are going to flow and cover your fee. Is that fair?
Certainly, the new laws that have been reformed over the over the years makes it more difficult for public. It just makes it cost inefficient. We're going to wind up losing money to help people out. And similarly, it used to be you had 5 years to report a claim, then it got whittled down to 3, and then 2. Now it's 1. So I just had an inquiry the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh, this is somebody that really needs help, and how do we help her? But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I know I've got this 18 months coming up, and are we going to be able to put this together in such a short amount of time? We've got we want to get the rest of our clients' claims settled that we're currently obligated to, but it's a lot of gray area, and I've reached out to a lot of experts in the industry and have gotten various answers that are often contradicting themselves. And so there's just a lot of confusion right now, even among the professionals. So I would say if you still have a claim, you're within that window to report it. You've got, we just passed 1 year, but 18 months, get your claim in. If you haven't already, and you think you've had damage, report it immediately. It's still not too late. No, but time is working against you. Yep.
All right. Lawsuit economics. Matt, you have this notice of civil remedy in Florida. Can a homeowner file one, or do you have to be a lawyer?
A homeowner can file one. The caveat to that is that the form itself can be a little bit tricky to navigate. And this is an area where a lot of legal issues come into play. I think Amy just showed the slide that has a link to the civil remedy notice on the DFS website. So, what I would say about that, what is a civil remedy notice? It's basically a prerequisite to filing a bad faith case against an insurance company in Florida. That's what a civil remedy notice is.
Bad faith, but do you also have to file it just if you're suing them for breach of contract, or would you?
You do not. You do not. There's a separate requirement. There's a pre-suit litigation notice that you have to file before you sue an insurance company in Florida. That's separate from a civil remedy notice.
Okay.
So a civil remedy notice really is a tool. If all else has failed, and you've gone to people like Gene and directly through the DFS, and you're still not getting a response, or you're still not getting what you need out of your claim, the civil remedy notice will often elevate your issue to a different area within the insurance company itself that handles bad faith claims. So it's a way to get a different set of eyes on your issue internally. And as I mentioned, it also is required if you have a true, claims handling or bad faith issue. If you ever need to bring suit on that issue, you can't do so until you file the civil remedy notice.
Okay. Jason?
And I'd just like to add that the carrier has 60 days to respond to the civil remedy notice. So,
yeah. And if they don't respond, and I have seen it happen, then the law presumes that they have acted in bad faith, and then it becomes their burden to demonstrate otherwise. So there are real consequences to any failure by the carrier to not respond.
Okay. Jason, with all the tort reforms, and we hit on this a little bit, but let's just make sure we're clear, that the Florida legislature enacted last year, can a Florida resident still hire a lawyer to sue an insurer on a contingency basis, or only hourly?
No, they can still hire us on contingency basis. Even with the reform, a lot of these files or claims are settled pre-suit or even prior to going to trial. So it could still be handled under a contingency basis.
Okay.
Now, you agree, right?
Oh, yeah. And you're going to see that issue litigated, I think, in terms of whether the reforms are retroactive. But so far, every court to look at the issue has said no, they're not.
And I will add, and this is a little bit technical, but we've dealt with proposals for settlement and Danis letters, which they were a way to cut off attorney fees prior to this legislation. Yeah.
But us policyholder lawyers have to get really good at that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also agree with
now we care.
Sorry.
Yeah. And one last thing, I don't want to overrun this, but the retroactive, I was in house and I went to plenty of motions to dismiss hearings on notice of intent not being filed. So I'm sure they're going to attempt to do that also, but so far we're good. Yeah.
Okay. Matt, does the filing of a lawsuit mean your insurer no longer has to continue processing your claim?
No. Simply stated, no. I mean, I think every internal insurance company employee who I've ever asked this question to has given me the same answer. Does the duty of good faith continue into litigation? The answer is yes.
Okay. Very good. Gene, this is your agency's contact information, correct?
Yes, I didn't check this slide, but I'm going to assume it's correct. If not, I'll send you something that you can add to the,
all right.
I'm sure that phone number is correct. I don't call it all the time, but okay. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Okay. Gene, what is the Florida Homeowner Mediation Program?
Well, our mediation program, again, is a form of alternative dispute when there's a dispute between the policyholder and the carrier on a claim being covered or the amount that the company is offering. Of course, the policyholder has to wait for the company to make a coverage determination. That's a prerequisite for requesting mediation. You can't do before then. But when you do go this route, it is a little easier in the pocket because the company is the one that actually pays the fees for the mediation process, as long as the policyholder shows up and does not no show a mediation meeting.
Okay.
Also, when they go through the mediation process, the results of the mediation is not final. It's not binding. If they don't like it, they still have other recourse. They're not bound to what the mediator says, but the policyholder can request it, the insurer can request it, a third party AOB, if that's still allowable within their contract, could request it, and then there's certain individuals that the policyholder could bring in, the insurer could bring in to attend the mediation, to bring meaningful information. But it's supposed to be a non-adversarial process. It's very friendly to the policyholder and allows them to get a mediator involved to try to get a meaningful resolution for the claim before they move forward with getting an attorney, which could, like I mentioned before, it could cost a lot more.
Right. Okay. Here's the information for appealing a flood claim denial. Val, can you quickly walk us through if you didn't have flood insurance, your claim was denied, what are some of the possible sources of money for review?
Yeah, so one of the first is because you're a federally declared disaster, you've got the ability to reach out to your mortgage company if you have one about forbearance. And so it looks a little different than traditional forbearance like we would have seen during COVID, where there's the possibility to actually just extend the timeline of your loan. So you can access that two ways. We'll make sure we put that in the chat. On our Ian library, it's under Here to Help with Fannie Mae. There's also Money Management International. They both provide certified HUD counselors to help people with disaster issues, specifically on mortgage, to provide that mortgage help. So that's a resource for you. If you already had a home equity line of credit, obviously you can access those funds. In the beginning of the year, we'll be going through our Taxing Matters webinar, where we'll talk about some of those tax strategies to help you with that. It's more of a long-term, investing money in here now, and then taking advantage of some of the tax opportunities for, balancing that out in the future. Charitable aid, we'll talk about that on the next slides. And then for SBA and FEMA, the individual assistance grants, if you were denied, appeal, you want to try again. It takes an average of 5 appeals to be able to receive an award for the FEMA IA specifically. So be aware of that. And the other piece in any of these, SBA and FEMA, if they outline certain materials that they want you to provide, you do need to provide all of that. We do recommend that you package that all in one email, because you have to upload it to their portal. So just everything together in one package so things don't get lost. So be aware of that. And then the next slides are, this is for the statewide resources. Here's some resources available to you that are truly statewide. So Disaster Legal Services is still providing free legal help for low-income disaster survivors. If you're looking for help with food, housing, transportation, Unite Florida is that resource for you. There's the Florida Disaster Biz Directory, and of course, calling 211. And then the next 3, I think it's 2 or 3 slides, for each of the counties, these are the disaster case management programs funded by FEMA and administered by the state that can connect you to local charitable dollars that might be able to help you with repairs, with volunteer labor, materials. So please don't hesitate to take advantage of these resources. Some of them are income limited, but a lot of them aren't. They're there to help you. So please take advantage of those. And just a reminder, obviously grab a photo of whichever your county is. We'll go through all these slides. But the PDF of this will be on our website in the morning. So you'll be able to grab those then. And so just, again, contact the one for your county specifically.
On this slide, we offer information on if you're having trouble with a contractor, if you're having trouble with an adjuster, if you're having trouble with a lawyer, these are the places to go. The contractors, roofers, remediation professionals, insurance adjusters, these will be your places to go. We have the Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters has a Voices of Policyholders recorded line where you can tell your story, which I think is really helpful for a lot of people. And there's the information for the state bar if you're having trouble with an attorney. Here are some mental health resources. And again, all of this information will be up on our website later today, if not already. This is where you'll find some of the publications we've been referencing. We also, coming up next Tuesday, we will be having one of our Survivor to Survivor forums, specifically for people who were impacted by Hurricane Ian. And this is a very low-key, informal, private chat online, moderated by our trained volunteers who've been there, done that, went through a disaster, got help from us, and now they pay it forward by helping other people. It's really just a safe place to get some, maybe a little bit of humor, a little bit of reassurance that you're going to get through this. We also offer a forum, an Ask an Expert forum online. If you have questions after you've watched this program that you want to ask a lawyer, a public adjuster, or some other kind of expert, this is a resource for you to use. I want to thank our panel. They were terrific. And I want to thank our attendees on the live and also in the future. Thank you for your time and attention. I want to thank our funders, the Center for Disaster Philanthropy and the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, and my team, Ben and Val, who joined me today. But again, Jean, Jason, Richard, and Matt, thank you so much for your expertise. I know you're all very busy. So thank you for giving us a little bit of time out of your day. And for the folks who want to know how they reach these kind, knowledgeable people, you'll find Jason's firm, Matt's firm, Rick's firm in our Find Help directory in Florida. And then Jean's agency phone number is in the slide deck, and we will make sure that you have that as well. So gentlemen, thank you again so much. I wish you all a good evening, and this recording will be published on our website as soon as we've got it uploaded. Good evening.
Thanks, Ian.